Matt, if we just touch on Scotland quickly, they managed to get themselves in the game after half-time, 17-11. Fair play to them. Darcy Graham, Finn Russell incidents, and thankfully they're both recovering okay. Finn Russell actually passed his HIA, but couldn't remember the moves. I'm pretty sure Gregor Townsend said to himself and Peter Horne decided, and rightly so, he should never come back on the pitch. I suppose it comes down to the bench issue and how many backs and forwards you put on it, your overall summation of it. And thankfully, firstly, safety's paramount, and they made the right call. But as a coach, it comes back to the bench calls.
Yeah, Stuart, it's look, whenever and we're getting so immune to this now since the last World Cup when South Africa started going 6-2 on their bench and 7-1. We're not even saying anything about it. I go on about it, so I sort of think I got to stop saying this because people are going to get sick of hearing it, even though it's true. When you go with the 6-2 bench, there's a whole lot of other reasons that I've spoken about. But one of the other reasons is you're rolling the dice on your back's not getting hurt. You go a 7-1 bench, mate, you are really rolling the dice that no one gets hurt. And no one wants to see what happened on Saturday. I'm not suggesting that in any way. That was awful. And on Sunday, rather, no one wants to see that. But accidents happen in our game. It's a body contact sport. Two guys competing, going for the ball in the same team collide. And they didn't have a trained 10 on their bench. Now, if you go with a 5-3 bench, that would happen. Usually you have an out half, that someone can play out half on your bench so you can step in. When you go with a 6-2, they chose not to. They had a half, a scrum half, and an outside back. Now, if that was a scrum, that wouldn't happen because World Rugby says you've got to have front rowers. I just can't believe World Rugby hasn't stepped in on this particular point since South Africa went 7-1 and everyone's going 6-2, and Ireland Ireland went 5-3. But that game was over at that point. And I don't understand why.
Matt, they're 12 can't play 10. Played a lot for Glasgow, won a URC with them, and Stafford McDowell come on. So I suppose they had that option, and that's what they did in the end.
They did, but it's very different to having a trained 10, isn't it? You look at the Ireland bench, and every 5-3 bench, usually you go with a trained 10. Now, so they did it, but that game was effectively over at that point. Scotland were never going to win that game from then on. And I just, this problem is so easily solved. We're talking about it for a couple of years now. All they have to say is you've got to have 3 recognised trained backs on your bench. There can't be a forward who can play in the backs. Just have 3 backs on the bench. We do it with the front row. If they did, all of this conversation would be over. It's such a simple solve. And I felt for Gregor. He rolled the dice and he got bitten. He's the only one so far to get bitten by this. But, that's what happens. It ruined the game as a spectacle, and it cost Scotland any chance of competing in the end, especially when you're, not just losing Russell's brilliance, but not having someone that could conduct the team as they needed to when you're playing a top team like Ireland. Because Scotland believed they were right, in the championship, but as soon as that injury occurred and they didn't have the suitably trained player, I thought it was all over Red Rover, and it proved to be correct. And I think until we get to that point where World Rugby starts saying you do have to have 3 suitably trained backs as part of your 7, we're going to be up. This option that we saw on Saturday is going to be a constant in the game, and that's a shame because it's easily solved.